The Florida State Seminoles have some important recruiting targets on campus this weekend, including flip targets.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making this podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today, we're just going to be focusing on FSU's recruiting efforts, most specifically to begin the show on the kids that will be on campus this weekend, hopefully. And some of them are flip candidates, and some of them down the road could be possible flip candidates if they talk to a few guys that may be leaving the Gators. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. But I want to first start off with just a few guys that are possibilities for the Noles to flip. And this is how you make your money, if you will, in recruiting. If you take nothing else from this podcast, note that recruiting is fluid. Florida State, they held off a lot of people last year when they struggled. It was a really good effort by the FSU staff and the guys that came on board. Can they now flip that script because Florida State's good again and take away from programs, most notably the Gators? I'll get into that, as I said a moment ago, in just a moment. But first, Ole Miss recruit Demarius Yates is a guy that I absolutely loved when I saw him live earlier this year. He was at the Under Armour New Orleans camp and was spectacular. Wide receivers and DBs and linemen kind of are the center of what we scout at these camps, because you can do one-on-ones that are at least somewhat realistic. They do pass rushing drills for the linemen and then one-on-ones with wide receivers and DBs. That's pretty straightforward. Running backs kind of get left to the side because you need to see them hit. But Yates was so good in the pass skeleton drills and then in the one-on-ones that he stood out like he was head and shoulders above. I think he's a national top 10 running back. However, he committed to Ole Miss pretty early. Ironically, though, one of the players on Florida State's roster is his former teammate. And look, it's simple as this. When there's a great prospect and you got somebody really trying to get you to come to campus, and it's Mario Nash Jr., in case you're wondering, the kid they just signed, an offensive tackle I think is going to be very good for the Noles. He's close friends with Yates. You're going to at least listen, hey, we need to check this kid out. But his film pops off too. It's not just my opportunity to see him play at Under Armour. Like, his junior film was ridiculous. Nash had told me about him, and everybody's offered him. And then he commits to Ole Miss, but FSU didn't back off either. They kept going after him. He's a guy that may be on campus, and if it's not this weekend, maybe it's Miami. These unofficial visits, I get news. I take it very loosely because they're paying their own dime to get there. So this could change, but if he's on campus this weekend, great. If it's for the Miami game, that's great, whatever. But he is a home run hitter at running back, and honestly kind of fits what some of the former FSU coaches like Jimbo would have liked, because he wanted really speedy running backs. Same thing with Bowden. I think he fits Florida State to a T with their ability to run outside using guys. He's, in a way, he's a little bit bigger version of Jalen Lucas. That's probably the best way to put it. He's 190-ish, 185. Lucas is 170, but he can fly, and he's just really good in the pass game. Perfect fit for today's game. This would be a major flip if Florida State could get him. In my opinion, he's a top 100, top 150 kid, has a chance at an NFL career because he's a 3-down running back. Getting him on campus will be big. Let's see if it's this weekend or it ends up being Miami, but that's really important. Yaya Gad, I think I'm pronouncing that properly. He's a kid that I've mentioned before. He was committed to the UCLA Bruins. He has decommitted from that program. Obviously, Deshaun Foster is no longer the head coach for the Bruins. That has opened the door. FSU is supposed to get him on campus. Again, it's fluid. I know there are reports when he's going to be here. I'm just hoping that he's either here for this game and preferably really the Miami game. That's a prospect that Florida State could use. He's an edge rusher that is built like a Greek god, and he is also somebody that fits a need. FSU needs edge guys in this class. They don't really have that in the current class. I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the show, but if they could get him, that would cure a lot of ills. They're also going to have Jalen Scott on campus hopefully pretty soon, this weekend, it sounds like, but we'll see when it is. He's a 2027 recruit that was committed to the Noles, decommitted, then committed to Auburn. He's from Williamson High School in Mobile. He's supposed to come back in. That's one of the top DBs in the 27 class, regardless of where you want to look. That would be a very nice add to the class. Cooper Crosby, a kid out of Mississippi, is supposed to come in. I don't know much about him. He's an athlete / running back, could play a lot of different positions. He's been to Florida State for camp before. That's a good player. They're also trying, just as a reminder, I brought this up before, I'll probably say it 20 more times. Derek Cooper is supposed to be in for the Miami game. Maybe that ends up happening. Maybe it doesn't, but you're going to recruit him until he signs somewhere else. And he's technically committed to Texas. I assume Cooper is going to be at the Florida game for the University of Miami this weekend. I don't know, but that's one of the best running backs in the country. Somebody Florida State has coveted. Kevin Ford, I'll just mention this, and I'll get into it a little more in the next segment to add on with the current commitments. He's a defensive lineman out of Duncanville that Florida State has had conversations with. Does that mean he's going to take a visit? I don't know, but he is a flip target. That's somebody you would take all day, every day. He's similar to Gad. He's 250-ish, give or take, and he's a guy that can play on the edge. Florida State needs more edge defenders. He fits that to a T. National recruit, too. He had offers from Bama and everybody else you can imagine. Thomas Wilder is a guy that's a possibility. Caden Hall, the Florida commit, is another possibility. There's a bunch of different guys. And just overall, here's the common theme. A lot of these kids we're hearing from Florida State anyway. But is it a coincidence that now there's more interest after you're winning? Of course not. Winning matters in recruiting. Kids tend to reply a little faster when you're a top 10 team. That's just the way it is. So Florida State's earned it. So good for the Noles. And these are just a few of the guys. And like they're still in on some other players too. There's a kid named Jared Dowdy. Read about him on Noles 24/7. If you're not subscribed, that's a really good site. He's a big offensive lineman that just blew up. I didn't even know who he was. And then he got Auburn and Alabama and Georgia and Florida State. And all these schools offered him. He's out of Banneker High School in Atlanta. That's not a program that at least recently has been that good, but he's 6'5", 300 pounds, and he's an offensive tackle that can move. There's no senior film of him. I want to see senior film before I touch anything else, but he doesn't have anything else up on Huddle, but that's a prospect to watch. I'm kind of curious. The Noles need at least one more tackle in this class, and we'll get into that and talk a little bit more about some of the flip candidates and what I expect from Florida State as we break down their class overall. How many more guys do they need? And can they take some from the Gators? I have some very staunch comments about Florida's situation. They are in a bad spot. And it's something that you can't ignore. So Florida State's probably going to take advantage. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. You can move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there. You can choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. We are also brought to you by Wayfair. The weather's cooling down. The days are getting shorter, and that has you really looking at the opportunities to kind of change it up a little bit in your home, maybe your patio if you're somebody like me. And when it comes to cozifying your space this fall, Wayfair is your place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood, whether it's for comfy furnitures, recliners, maybe it's something for bedding, maybe it's something just to get ready for Halloween, whatever it may be, Wayfair is there. Patio furniture is something that I would look at. I've gotten a desk from there before, got it in a couple of days, and it's easy to set up everything, and you can use the Wayfair app really easy. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates for comfy recliners to cozy bedding and everything else. Wayfair.com. That's Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style and every home. We are also brought to you by Square. For those people that really want to make a dent in their own community, Square's an opportunity for you because there's a lot of different neighborhood spots that you can go to for a good restaurant. Maybe it's an ice cream shop or something like that. And it's a lot of fun, and you're supporting your local businesses. Coffee shops are something that I like a lot when I go on the road to scout. And that's something you can do very easily in Florida State, and the greater Tallahassee area has plenty of those places. Just as an example, you got Newberry, you got the Black Dog Cafe, the Bark. Whether you're trying to get breakfast, just get coffee or something else, support your local community. It is a really important thing that we all need to do in some way, shape, or form. And Tallahassee has quite a few of them, to be honest with you. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/Locked On College to learn more. But before you go support your local favorite in whether it's coffee, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's another retail outlet. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day, each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me and a little recruiting on a Friday afternoon. This is a part of the recruiting cycle that gets really convoluted. And what I'm going to start with before I dive into the Florida State commitment list, I'll talk about that a little bit. I probably should do that more often. Your needs matched up with other teams' deficiencies. And when I say deficiency in this case, I'm talking about the Florida Gators. Let me give you the overall 10-second view of what's happening here. This will be Florida's fourth game this weekend when they play Miami. Why is that significant? It's not just recruits here. Keep this in the back of your mind. I've saved this on purpose. It's players on their roster. The 4-game rule. In college football, if you play 4 or fewer games, you can redshirt. However, Florida's going into their fourth game, and Napier, let's be honest, he's probably going to get canned. I don't know when, but here's the question. Does he get canned right after they get crushed by Miami, which I expect? I just don't think Florida's players are bought in after watching some of that LSU game. That is really weird. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they come out and they play great. Highly doubt that. But if they come out there and just get smashed, I guarantee you, and some of this has probably happened already, parents, trainers, old high school coaches, etc., are going to want to know from people inside the Florida office, is it 100% that Billy Napier is going to be back next year? And of course, the Florida administration wants no part of that. They're stuck, though. Because of the 4-game rule, you're going to see some guys magically get injured or just sit out and simply say, you know what, screw this. I'm going to sit out and see if Billy makes it. There's going to be a lot of problems. So first off, before I dive into Florida's situation with recruits, some of the kids on their campus right now as football players could be on the market, many of which the FSU program recruited out of high school. So that's first thing I need to note. And then secondarily, there's their 2026 commitment list. I already mentioned Kevin Ford. He's one of the best players in the country. He's a defensive lineman from Duncanville High School on the edge of Dallas. Everybody offered that kid in the SEC, etc., like Texas A&M, Alabama. He's that guy. Florida State's talking to him. So while nobody that's a Florida State fan is really all that interested in what's going on regards to Miami and UF in terms of they want one team or the other to win, the bigger news isn't the game itself. It's what happens with Napier in that roster, in their commitment list. It is extremely convoluted. UF is going to implode. It's a matter of when. So I ask, just as a guess, if you're going to comment today, think about this as a possibility. Will UF completely pull the plug and go public before the 5th game? And the next bye week, they got a bye after this game against the Canes. But their next bye is like game 7 or something like that. They play Georgia. The week before they play the Bulldogs in Jacksonville. Florida has a bye. My guess is they'll do it then because they'll never admit this in a million years. They want these kids to play game 5, et cetera, et cetera. Because if a bunch of guys opt out, go look at Florida's schedule. If they even have 5 more guys opt out, let's just use a basic number. They could finish 3-9, 100%. It is nuts. They got a bye after they play the Canes. They play Texas, then they play Texas A&M. And it really doesn't get a whole lot easier after that. And again, they got Georgia down the road, etc. Good luck to Florida, keeping those kids bought in. But a general thought here. Florida's commitment list is pretty good. It's a similar class to FSU. Conservatively, I expect 5 to 10 guys to, at minimum, take visits to other schools. Like Kevin Ford, obviously, he's going to take some spots. Maybe he visits A&M. Maybe it's Oklahoma. I don't know. He's a Dallas kid. Maybe it's Florida State. but you can't lose guys like that and it end well. And then there, of course, again, Dallas Wilson and all these guys they got to sign in this class for the Gators. Some of those guys might say to heck with it, and they don't play. There are a lot of ways that Florida State can benefit. Number one, Florida losing players. Obviously, that helps your program because that's an arch rival. But you may end up with some of them. Which ones? I know people want to know specific names. Absolutely no idea. Even with Ford as an example, there are going to be a lot of backroom conversations based on how the Miami game goes. Let's look at this probably Tuesday, Wednesday, because by then, if something hasn't happened with UF firing Napier, and again, I think Miami's going to shellac them because the Florida players are apathetic. I just don't think they're involved heavily enough, especially on the offensive side. There's something wrong there. They're going to lay an egg. If that happens and they don't fire Billy, how does this go down? There's going to be so much conversation. It's going to be very juicy. I'm really interested in. As for Florida State's class in general, just want to note a couple of things. I put up a post on the Locked On Seminoles X handle earlier today talking about Devin Carter. I saw him at Rivals 5-Star in Indianapolis. It was held at the Colts facility. And it's just a reminder they've got more and more speed coming into the program. Devin's one of the fastest players in the country. He lives just outside of Atlanta. Of course, his dad was Dexter Carter, a very good football player for the Noles back in the 80s. I think that Florida State is probably in a scenario here where they haven't been given quite enough credit for their current class. Chauncey Cannon's involved as one of those guys. It could be a 5-star when all the rankings are done, depending on which service you go with. 24/7 currently has him as a 5-star. He could end up a 5 across the board. He's a corner out of Booker High School in Sarasota. Ernest Rankins, he's one of my favorite defensive linemen in the 2026 class, regardless of which program's involved with him. I saw him on a visit at Auburn. I know 24/7 has him listed at 6'4". There's no way that kid's 6'4". He's got to be at least 6'6". He is humongous. He's another kid out of the greater Atlanta area. Xavier Tiller is a really good, another Atlanta area kid out of Langston Hughes, a tight end. There are all kinds of guys in this class. Isaiah Williams, that probably don't get as much credit as they should. I don't know what it is. And then recently, Jay Timmons, his dad Lawrence Timmons, played for the Noles and played for the Steelers for a long time. He's from the Pittsburgh area. He's committed. Florida State has a very good class. And Timmons just got bumped to 5-star status or in that area, like he's top 30 by the Rivals group. All these players are going to help Florida State. It's a good class. So again, if you add a couple from like the Florida class, which is possible, Caden Hall is another one FSU's talking to, a big-time safety. He plays at Milton High School on the edge of Pensacola. You just add a couple more guys. Florida State's got a top 10 class. If they can flip 3 or 4 guys, and maybe this kid I mentioned earlier today, curious to see him, Jared Dowdy, the offensive tackle. They do need one more tackle. Why not a top 8 class for Florida State? If you can get 2 defensive ends, why not a top 6 class for Florida State? If you get between like 6 and 10 in the recruiting rankings each year, it's one player usually. Like it's just one guy that is the difference. So Florida State is pretty close. And again, I'm a huge fan of Demarius Yates. They can get just a couple of these kids. You're starting to trend back in the direction that Florida State should. I guess in a way, that's really the epicenter of this podcast. It's through different variety of ways and taking advantage of Florida's absolutely horrific season so far. But to be honest with you, they were having a pretty good class anyway. Coming off a 2-10 season, they deserve a lot of credit. Everybody in the football office. There is no one individual. Everybody at Florida State deserves some credit for that. It's not easy recruiting, even when you're on top. The demands with NIL and everything that goes with it, that's rough. But Florida State has passed that bar. They've earned it. And again, you're winning now. It certainly helps the Florida State cause to have that moniker. Hey, we beat Bama. We beat them decisively. We looked really good against East Texas A&M. You should at least come visit us. That's kind of where they're at. If they beat Virginia and Miami, last point here, I think the floodgates could open. Me talking about a top 6 class, some people might be laughing with who they've got on their board. Derek Cooper might be on campus again. Like I think he's coming for the Miami game. That's been reported by just about everybody in some capacity. If they can get just a few of these kids, their recruiting class is going to change. And their biggest key really might be saying no to some kids. They got to be very selective, because if you think it's good now, 2027 will be better, because those kids, they'll have a full year to recruit coming off a really good season. That makes it a lot easier. Kids will still have the rapport with you, and some of your new coaches will have that opportunity. Gus, et cetera, they'll have a chance to sit down with them more. Herb Hand, whoever it may be, that will matter a lot. So I'm really excited to see what happens with the Florida stuff, but I may be more excited to see what Florida State does in terms of choosing. Caden Hall, you go after. Kevin Ford, you go after. I get it. Those are easy. Which other kids do they really target? And there can be other schools too. Virginia Tech, et cetera. They lost their coach, UCLA. This is fascinating to me, and it's why recruiting is such a year-round event, because so many things change and kids have to reevaluate what they're going to do. So let's see where the Noles go and finish this class, because it's got a chance to be, like I said, top 10 conservatively. It could even get up to around that number 6 mark. It would not surprise me. Thank you very much for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day, each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are available wherever you get your pods: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and everywhere else. We will see you again soon on Locked On Seminoles.